Leg 12 was about the internal journey. The journey of the imagination, the journey of the landscape within. And we got an opportunity to experience the journey in as many different ways as we had participants. Probably the most memorable thing we did at mile 0 of the Trans-Canada Trail was have the opportunity to participate in a community blanket toss.
On envoie des gens sur une couverture, en fait on est tous autour de la couverture en train d'attraper sur la corde. Et j'ai ressenti l'énergie passer à travers nous. C'était un beau moment en fait, d'être éloigné de la vie rapide, plus mouvementée, urbaine.
The act of standing shoulder to shoulder with some of the Tuck community members was in a way a wonderful starting point for the cross-cultural nature of C3.
Then we moved on to Herschel Island. Herschel Island, having worked in the Arctic before, there are certainly places that I had on my radar that I really have always wanted to go to, and Herschel Island was one of them.
Kikikdaruk Herschel Island Territorial Park is located at the most northern end of the Yukon Territory. It's just off of the mainland, across from the Ivavik National Park.
It's a special place to learn about your culture and history, about our past. 100-something years ago that this place was 2,000 people living here. You look around, not much change, too much, but there's a lot of global warming and climate change that is affecting the sea coast, and the permafrost is melting.
Our interpreters looked across at the shore of the Yukon, which have very visible, massive scale slumpages that are really a portrait of climate change.
We don't even know what time it's going to happen. We can be walking today, doing your chores throughout the day, and next thing you'll hear a rumble. And if you can look back and catch it, you'll see the side of the land already coming down. All those little inlets our elders used to lose as safety havens, they're all gone. We're not going to stop erosion. We have to find ways and means of managing the resources that we have and adapting to those changes.
After Herschel Island, our first stop in Alaska was in a lovely little community called Tikirak, a Inupiaq community, or Point Hope.
Mon Dieu, ils étaient tellement accueillants, comme ils étaient là sur la plage, à nous embrasser, bienvenue, bienvenue, et c'était comme, wow, j'ai jamais eu une expérience comme ça.
It was an opportunity for us to interact with people who are still very much involved in the whale hunt.
It really surprised me that they used whale bones to build their houses traditionally. They're still living the traditional way of life, and as one of the whaling captains said, he says, I have everything here, why would I leave?
It's not a trade to me, it's a subsistence type living. It was passed on from my grandfather to my father, and then from my father to me, and now that I've retired, I pass it on to my oldest son. If that stops, then we don't have, our culture is gone.
It really was an affirming experience with a very particular type of resilience in the people who were there, who are facing climate change, who are facing cultural change, but who were unafraid to look us in the eye and talk about that and to welcome us into their community.
We are now passing through the Bering Strait. How cool is that? Over here on the port side, we have Alaska. You can see the colors are changing right now with fall colors, and on our starboard side is our two islands, One of them is Alaskan and the other one is actually Russian. And if you look far off in the distance, you can actually see Russia as well. We were wondering if we'd actually be able to see it. Still some debate whether, maybe we were just making it up, but.
Leg 12 was an epic journey outside of Canada. We started in Tuktoyaktuk, circumnavigated Alaska, and as such, spent most of the leg looking from the outside into Canada. But because we had the luxury of time on the water, sea days between stops, I think we had a unique opportunity to look inside ourselves.
I think that one discussion where I felt as a group we kind of crossed this boundary was when we first started discussing belonging. And everyone has their own experience with belonging. And I think that that was really the first discussion where we all truly opened up.
A sense of belonging comes from inside, and everybody will feel some sense of not belonging in certain circumstances. And in order to understand that you belong, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
I've always been grounded in who I am. Even when I was growing up and I was made to feel ashamed of who I was, I knew who I was. It's hard to say that I am Canadian, you know, when Canada has treated me so badly. Canada needs to recognize that Indigenous peoples need to be in total control of their lives. They need to know that we need a say in our territories. I really hope one day that I can proudly call myself a Canadian.
For me, being Canadian doesn't have one face. It doesn't have one definition. I would prefer to just define Canada as a ton of individuals and different communities that are currently learning how to live together.
You can say you're inclusive and you can say that diversity is important and it brings strength to a community, but unless you really understand how all aspects can shine and how you can help amplify them, then it's not going to do its job as a powerful mechanism to empower your community.
After crossing through the Bering Strait, we got to Nome.
We had a visit from the mayor of Nome, who was an absolute character, absolutely delighted to have us in town, and greeted everyone as if he were calling on a serious party line. He said, "Hello, Central."
Hello, Central. My name is Richard Benville. I'm mayor of Nome, Alaska. I've lived here for 30 years and I love it. Alejandro, where are you from?
I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, but originally from El Salvador.
No, really?
Yes, I heard the mayor was here, so I had to come say
Oh,
hi.
I'm the mayor. God bless you, dude. We probably have a lot in common, I got a feeling.
I want
Hello, Central.
to get a picture with you.
I go to attend a lot of meetings, especially now with climate change and the Arctic Council. And I learned so much from my Canadian brothers and sisters. I believe in the future, I believe in the good of people, I believe in the potential. The Bering Strait is becoming more accessible. So it's a very, 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 very important thing that's happening and exciting. I mean, it's like the world is coming here. Hello, Central.
From Nome, we set sail again to Dutch Harbor, which is the harbor that supports the busiest fishing port in the United States, called the Unalaska. In Unalaska, we were able to get an opportunity to climb one of the local peaks, which was a fairly epic hike.
And when we got to the top, we could actually look down and see the Polar Prince with its beautiful colors and the Canadian flag. Just an amazing experience. So then we went on to Kodiak.
We actually found out as we arrived that in Kodiak, Alaska, on this beautiful island on the south coast of Alaska, is the northernmost rainforest in the world. So we went from no trees to massive Sitka spruce and cedars. It was such a wonderful and beautiful contrast.
Bears there are the biggest bears in the world. They're actually the largest land carnivore in the world there. What I was amazed actually was with how the participants got really into this part of the world.
I think this is a little grizzly bear left for me to find on Kodiak Island.
We did go out and actually had an opportunity to see a lot of different types of wildlife.
From Kodiak, Alaska, all our sights were turning onto northern BC. We've had a wonderful welcome no matter where we've gone, but the Nass Valley had a particular sparkle to it.
Our elders always leave a message. There are no strangers that come to our community, it's just new friends we haven't met yet. So on behalf of the community of Dingle, welcome to King Cola.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you so much.
Among other things we heard there was the idea that a modern day treaty could be actually a closing of the circle of confederation.
With the completion of the treaty, and once we signed the treaty, we were no longer a part of that Indian Act. The Indian Act no longer applies to us. And so we have all these opportunities, including our consideration of lands and the ability of our citizens to own both their homes and dirt underneath. The underlying title is the Nisga'a Nation.
The success of the Nisga'a Treaty, of course, was on the backs of our great leadership. Our people are the ones that make leadership strong. Our people are the ones that make it the success that it is today.
No matter where we've gone, we have been taken to places that are sacred. And in the Nass Valley, one of the most sacred places are the lava beds. We were invited to walk there, to be there, but they very much see it as a graveyard for the 2,000 community members who died there. But to be able to walk that ground, which is a very distinctive landscape, is very different than learning about it in a book.
We are in the Nass Valley on an incredibly warm, beautiful day, and we're walking on this lava field that wiped out 2,000 people. So it's kind of haunting but beautiful at the same time. Very surreal landscape.
It feels great to finally be back on Canadian soil, but I think one thing that I've learned from going around Alaska, from Canada to Alaska and then back to Canada again, is that it's not that different. Like, all the communities they're unique, but they're the same, and we all have the same challenges. And
il y a très peu de personnes qui peuvent dire qu'ils ont fait le tour de l'Alaska, qui sont partis du nord canadien et qui font le tour de l'Alaska jusqu'en Colombie-Britannique. Tout le monde sur l'équipage, c'est des gens qui sont des experts dans leur domaine, donc juste les conversations sont absolument fascinantes. On apprend une quantité phénoménale à chaque jour, donc on a tout ce qu'il nous faut pour nous garder occupés et allumés tout le long, donc fascinant jusqu'à date.
We were on a vessel, but it really did create this microcosm for all of us to be in together. I mean, I was very surprised at the transformative nature that Canada C3 would be.
To not only look into Canada as a concept, but also into ourselves as a group. And as we did that, we actually were able to tease apart who we were.
It's not that we are going to ignore the diversity that we have here in this amazing country. It's that we're going to embrace that diversity and celebrate it, but all recognizing that we are all Canadian, we're all just people, and we're all just making our way in life here.
But what happened on the leg, enabled by the fact that we were at sea and by the fact that we had willing participants, is we were able to take those differences and bring them back together.
For the sake of all of our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, I really hope that voyages like this continue and the education for Canadians continue in so many ways, not just on the ship, but inland as well, because there's so much that we can all do to change our future.
Our helm is Captain Key. From the outside looking in, we can see where we have been. Our differences melt away as we grow from bay to bay. We're circling Turtle Island right now. The future begins. There are teachings all around us from the outside looking in. We've all